Welcome back, guys. We have another install for you guys today. Now, some of you might remember the FP kit. This one is very similar. This one is called the Cutback. So with this one, it is not much different than that FP kit or some of our other stripe kits that go above this body line, but we do want to go ahead and give you guys a run through on the install of this one in case this is something that you would like to purchase in the future. Now, I would like to go over just the important things, cleaning and environment. First, we'll start off with cleaning. We do have our alcohol water mix. Now that is 20% alcohol, 80% water in a 16-ounce bottle. Next up, we have our soap and water mix. This is a spray bottle, 16-ounce bottle with full of water and about 8 to 10 drops of Dawn dish soap. Now with that 8 to 10 drops, that will vary depending on your temperature and wherever it is that you are working. You don't want to do that inside of a warm or too cold of a garage. If the temperature inside of that garage or shop is too cool, then the material may not stick the way you want it to, and you wouldn't be able to heat check it properly. Now, if that temperature is too high, the vinyl will stick too soon, and even though that does sound like something good, it is not. Just in case you were to drop a piece of that vinyl or something like that, say you're trying to lay on this front stripe, it slips out of your hands and lands right there on your fender. You don't want that stuck onto there, because if you try to pull it back up when the temperature is too warm, or if your vehicle is still too warm, then it might end up creating a contour in that stripe, and that is not something that you would want with that, because since this is a printed vinyl, you would have to order a new piece. So with those being said, of course, if this is something that you're doing on your personal vehicle that has been driven around, you do want your vehicle to cool off, since there is a hood piece involved in this, and these fenders get heat soaked fairly easily from that engine heat. You do want your vehicle to cool down, to be good to the touch. You don't want it to have a feel of warmth to it. So back to the remainder of the tools, we do want you guys to have a towel. It would be a microfiber towel that you can get from various places, and a pair of scissors. And as a important two items that are very important, I would say a squeegee, and we do have these on the website. It is not exactly like this one, but it is very similar. The one that we have is also a hard card, but is a white one. Now, we don't have a felt that is on either edge of that squeegee. It is a bare squeegee, but we do offer a felt called monkey strips, which is about a 1-inch piece that we can fold over both sides of that squeegee, and it will protect your paint for when you're laying on that vinyl and you end up going over to your paint. Now with this plastic one, you won't have issues with your paint having any damage done to it, but you might end up having slight little like bird feet scratches on some of those darker colors. So that can be buffed out, but to avoid that altogether, we do recommend that you purchase the felt that we do have on the website as well. And last but not least, very important, it is to have a heat gun. Now with the heat gun, you do want to save that for later. You don't want to put these on with a heat gun, because that could end up stretching out some of these. This is something that you want to hold on to for after you have put everything on, after the job is completed. It is the best way for you to check your work and make sure that you don't have any bubbles or anything lifting off of the vehicle. Now we've gone over all of that. We've gone over your temperature, environment, and I do want to mention that you do want to do this in an enclosed area. If it is something that you think you might want to do in your driveway, do not do it. Your neighbor might turn on his sprinklers, the dog might come out and shake right next to you. Who knows what might happen? A gust of wind could kick up, and you get all different kinds of things underneath this material. Now, this is very smooth material. Once it is on, it is very close to the paint, so any imperfection that is underneath that will show. So if there are multiple pieces of dirt, dust, and hair underneath, it will not look ideal. Now, we do want you guys to have the best install possible for this. With all those details taken care of, I know it does sound like a lot, but it does get you the best finish after everything is on. with all that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into this install. All right, so we are going to start from the rear, head our way to the front. And I have already gone and taped everything up, obviously, but whenever you do lay on this kit, you do want to lay the whole thing on first and then give the vehicle a glance either from the front to the back or from the back to the front before you lay anything on, just to make sure that you are following that body line and that everything is lined up to where it should be. Now, I do have a little bit of a pro tip towards the front of that vehicle, and I will let you guys know it once we get up there. But for now, we're going to go over what is somewhat the more simple part of this install and literally the most straightforward. Now we are using our hinge method that we love to use, and that is just putting about 3 pieces of tape per stripe and then using that middle piece as a hinge, similar as I am right now. I'm going to just get this gas door down nice. Once that's locked in, I do like to just give a good once over with the squeegee on top of that graphic to make sure everything is locked down. It is still possible that there's a spot that I missed, but the heat gun will tell me whether or not that is true. Again, we're just gonna slide our squeegee through here. If you end up having a awkward angle to where your squeegee doesn't make contact and you see that kind of bridge right there, it might be difficult to try and split the tape up there. So since this spot is bowed out a little bit more, it does allow me to slide my squeegee between that tape and split it. And now I can press with my thumb against right here and pull up. And that leaves my tape mark. And then we swing it like a hinge over this way. And I'm going to lock in this middle just with a little bit of pressure, nothing too crazy. I'll stop right here, lift this edge up just so it's out of the way. And just to remember, I did go between the yellow and the orange with my squeegee, so that is where I'm going to start squeegeeing out from. Once again, give it that once over. And now we are going to move the tape out of the way, just because it's a lot easier to get that tape and put it onto the mask than it is to try and remember after you've put everything on. And when you are pulling this mask, you do want to pull at 180 degrees. And if this next panel does start to get in your way a little bit, you can split that tape and either roll it back this way, make sure your tape doesn't come up on you. You can roll it back this way and just tuck it right between the tape and the body. That way it won't crease, but it won't be in your way either. We're gonna pull this up off of the back door. I'm just gonna get my squeegee, feed that in there temporarily. I am going to keep in mind that I do have that still hanging there, but I will move on. And then when we go back with the heat gun, we're heat checking everything. I'll warm this up and get it to curve over into there. I'm gonna split this just a little bit further. Notice I'm not cutting directly up to the tape. I'm usually about 1 inch away from the tape. That's just because it would be extremely difficult trying to get super close to that piece of tape. It's a lot easier just to have that little bit of extra space. Again, using that yellow and orange as my midpoint. And then going to work from there out. You can either start from the top or the bottom. Just remember where you locked it in from. And that is taken care of. Keep in mind that we only split these 2 pieces of tape. So this is all I'm going to pull up and put onto the mask. Now I'll head up here, split the tape there, And same thing. Hinge that over here. If you happen to pull up your tape or something like that, you can match up the lines that are on the panel before the one where you are working. And it never hurts just to, if you want to give a glance down those panels again, it's totally fine. It never hurts to check your work before you lay it down and actually make it stuck onto what you're doing. Now I'm going to split this up here so that way the adhesive doesn't get stuck. Same thing, I'm just gonna curve that over into here. That's not folded over, so it is good and safe. It will keep its shape. Won't have any crease when I lay that door down. It might be a little difficult sometimes to get that mask started, but if you can just get an edge going, you can usually just roll it over with your thumbs. And you do want to pull at 180 degrees. If you pull at about 90 degrees or anything over that, you might end up pulling the stripe up, and it is very difficult to get these to go back straight again. So you have a little bit of a spot here that had some air under there. And I am going to do the same thing and just barely curve this around here, just so that way the face of the vinyl is touching the face of this panel as well, instead of it being adhesive to adhesive. It is much easier to get two pieces of vinyl away from each other when they're not adhesive to adhesive. For this one, I am going to temporarily tuck it as well. I'm going to go back with that heat gun and lay it in place. Now, if you don't have long enough fingernails, can use that squeegee and just temporarily get it inside of there. It doesn't look the prettiest right now. It still has some waves and things in there, but we can get those out with the heat gun. But just so that way things aren't sticking to other parts. We're going to move on to the driver's door. Same technique. Also, if you want to, totally up to you, you can put a piece of tape or a couple layers of tape on the back side of your scissors if you are afraid of scratching your paint. Lock in that midpoint, work our way down, work our way back up, and a quick swipe across. Pull our tape, put it on top of our mask. And now we have the back side taken care of. Move over here to the front. Let me just get past this side mirror. It's probably blocking your view, guys. Now with this, if you don't have your side mirror folded in, you can turn the vinyl so that way the sticky side is down and that the graphic side is facing up. So that way, if it does rub against your side mirror, you're not going to catch any dirt or anything from that. Line that up, going from our midpoint. And work our way out from that midpoint. And that once over. Go up here to the edge. And we're going to pull our tape, move that on top of the mask so we don't forget about it. And we're going to just roll this mask off. Piece that we have hanging back here. I'm just going to pop the door open just a little bit just to get it to curve around. Not going to quite feed that in there yet, but just enough so that way it's not touching that back door. And I'll come back to that one as well. Move up here to the front, same thing, temporarily curve this over. This one, if you want you can get your squeegee and just kind of assist it around that curve. And I will show you guys why that is going to make your life easier. You do want to kind of push against the fender, which will help you push on the opposite side of that door. As mentioned, we will get to that. But I do want to lay on this fender. I did leave my scissors behind, which is no problem. I've got my knife here. However, if you do end up splitting the paper with your knife, you do want to go back, either lick your fingers or use some of the soap and water. More than likely use the soap and water in case you just got back from lunch or something like that. And just go over this paper just to make sure it doesn't have any paper dust transfer underneath that vinyl. And back to our hinge, splitting that yellow and orange, working our way out from that. And that once over. Now for the last part of the stripe, this is that part that I had mentioned that might be a little bit tricky when I was at the back of the vehicle, but it is nothing too serious. Even though this stripe is going straight across, it is going to curve down and meet that body line. So when you do lay that on, then you can just go across that middle, and once you get up to about the middle of the fender, then you do want to start curving downward just a little bit, and keep your eyes on this body line that is on the front fender. That is what you are following. And if you're doing it right, you will have a separation between your pieces of tape that are up here towards the front. You may not see me pulling it down all that much, but if you take a look at the split between the tape right here, you can tell that I definitely shifted. And as long as you're happy with that, if you're in a cool temperature, if you're not happy with it, you can pull that back up. If you are totally fine with where that is, you can go ahead and start squeegeeing from that midpoint. Since it is easier for me to pull the mask off from the front going to the back, that is what I'm going to do. Again, you can roll that with your thumb, fold it over 180 degrees, and you do want to pull slowly just so that you can scan your eyes where that mask is leaving that graphic. Now that that's on, we can go back to those edges and get those sealed down. I'm gonna grab the heat gun so that way everything is good and in place. All right, so now when using the heat gun, you do want to wait about 10 to 15 seconds for that to warm up, just so that it is at its peak temperature. And I am going to go ahead, just warm up this edge and slowly just feed my squeegee into that seam. Of course, I am going to open the door, go back, and make sure that that is down properly. But till then, we are going to move back. And now I can open up the door, warm this up, see how it just flattened out. It was a little wrinkled before, but all those wrinkles came out. And when you are laying these edges, you do want to go slow. You don't want to rush those edges because they can buckle on you. Now, since the door is open, it does allow you to get space for that fender. If you choose to, you can fold your mirror either direction just to give yourself a little bit more visibility. You're just going to make sure that it is sealed back there. Now that we have those sealed in, you open your door up. Since we pushed against the door with the squeegee onto the fender, you can just heat up right where that edge is. You know, it's barely visible. But in case you are someone who likes to pressure wash your car, you do want to make sure that these edges are down. Now we have that locked in, we can move to the rear door. Now I'd mentioned we do have a few fingers here, and I am not worried about those because we aren't in a warm environment. We actually have the shop at about 72 or 73 degrees. We're just gonna warm it up just a little bit. Doesn't take too much heat. Get those fingers to go away. I'm gonna curve over this edge first. And then once you're coming to a flat spot on that door, you can use your squeegee and just slowly rock in those fingers. If you maybe placed your door a little bit further forward and it starts to curve over here, you can either cut it to match this one or you can leave that curve. That is totally up to you. We have that taken care of. Let's move on to the back. Same thing here. Just get it a little bit warm. Slowly roll those edges in. And now onto the quarter panel. Nothing different. Let that warm up. It'll start to flatten out. And once we have that locked in, now you can go over to your gas door and we can cut that portion out because we all need fuel. And now for the gas door, which some people dislike doing because it is one of the more tricky parts of these installs. You do just want to get a nice seal around this gas door, since that is what you will be skating your knife over. Personally, I like to start this way, and I do like to put my knife on the gas door, but where it is going to just slide on the side of the door, I'm not cutting on the paint, just using the gas door as a guide. If you do have a breakaway knife, it is definitely recommended to snap your blade before doing this, so that way it doesn't create a wave while you're cutting, because that is the indication that your knife is dull. A sharp knife will give a clean cut. You can use your squeegee or your towel or fingernail or something to go ahead and just get that into that recess. Once you do, you can open it up and really cater to those edges. Make sure those are down. And I think I'm pleased with that. Now, since we already have the heat gun back here and we've locked in these edges, I am going to go ahead, close this door, and heat check the stripe, and then I will go ahead and have the hood on for you guys. Once again, we're going to wait about a few seconds, make sure the heat gun gets to peak temperature. And you are just going to be a few inches away from that stripe. Just making sure wherever the heat gun is pointing, that is where you want to have your eyes, just to make sure everything is laying down, you don't have any bubbles, none of the edges are lifting. Good time to move your mirror back. And I am going in circles just to distribute that heat. All right, now we have the side done. We can go ahead and move on to the hood. Now, this is a prototype version of the hood. We do have a white outline that is going to go around these colors. It won't quite be a separate piece. It will actually be a void that will be cut out from the material, so it will show whatever your paint color is from that void, and so it will look like there is a piece of white vinyl there, but it is just a blank spot for that to really go with the stripe. Now this hood is different than our regular hood only by the graphic that we have there on the driver's side. Other than that, this one is the same as the other hoods that we have on here. And I'm going to lay this part down, pull the mask up to here so that way I can pull it completely off when I have that side down. So just bear with me a bit. Right, same as the hoods that we've had on here before. Gonna have our hinge method that we've used. I don't think my squeegee is gonna like getting into there. Just gonna split the tape with my knife. Since it has that nice backing. See if we can lift this up. There we go. There we are. Now, I like to kind of go up and down from the center of these hoods. I don't really like to lock in the middle and then work my way, only because it could shift. So I am overlapping my squeegee by about 1 inch. So if my squeegee ends here where that outline is, then I'm going to start right about there with the squeegee. And just overlapping strokes is the way to do it. Again, we're going to place our tape on top of the mask so that way we don't forget about it. Now we do have a couple spots here that aren't quite going down, but we do use air release vinyl. This is why you don't want to do this as a wet install, and this is why we don't offer wet installs. Same thing up here, just a little bit of lift, no worries. Now if our environment was too warm, those would not like to go down. They would actually seal very easily. Now I am going to go ahead and throw on, it is for us the prototype version, a pinstripe, but for the actual official version we will have that void cut out, so I'll give you guys a preview of that. Alright, so that concludes our cutback kit. Now we've done the hood and the sides. We will have this up on the website for you guys to check out, but be sure to heat check everything, and on top of that to check us out on YouTube and Instagram. We are here if you guys would like to place an order for one of our kits from Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, and we will be available through email and phone, so give us a ring if this is something that you like.